welcome back. This is part 4, I believe, of the sheet, version 4. We're going to go over the finances and the season sheet. So as you can see here, I've just put season 1. On the actual sheet, you'll have multiple different seasons. Now just saying S1, S2, S3 to make it shorter, keep the tabs more clean. But for this example, just because I was trying to test it, it's just got season 1 for now. So we go to the squad cost. So what this is now, in most actions of football, including UEFA and competitions and the Premier League, and there's quite a few around the world that are doing now what's known as SCR, which is squad cost ratio. So what this is basically every season you're paying money for your players. So the way to explain it is, if you sign a player for £5 million and you give them a 5-year contract, no matter how you pay the club, if you just pay that £5 million all up front, on the book, the squad balance sheet as it is, that £5 million gets divided up their contract length. So in that case, £5 million divided by 5, so you pay £1 million a season for the next 5 years. That gets added onto your squad balance sheet, and then you do that for every single player, and it'll give you a total value. Now that total part of your costs against your revenue, and that's what squad cost ratio is. Now it's not just transfer, it's also wages, agent fees, what else is involved? Your staff wages as well. They are marked against your squad cost ratio, and basically you have to be you can only spend 85% of the season's income on those 3 things: staff wages, the player transfers, and the players' wages. So by doing that, you're going to know that you're going to have to be a bit more savvy with money now. Yes, when you sign a transfer for a player, let's say for 20 million, you're not paying 20 million out, so it's not as strict that way, because you can now split that cost over 4 or 5 years. That will reduce the amount of money you'll have to pay on your balance sheet. But with that and wages and everything, you've got a very tighter budget. So squad cost ratio is actually pretty good for the game itself. And it's also to stop teams from actually going bust by spending too much. So on this page now, this is where you do your balance sheet, and this keeps track of the money, so you can work it all out for you. Anything in red, it means it has a formula on, so do not touch. Anything in the grey, you have to fill in for it. So currently, as you can see, I've had some players sell, so I've had to take them off, but there's a list of some of the players that's still left here, and on the very far right hand side is the squad cost for the season, and also the remaining book value. Now the remaining book value is important because whenever you sell a player, you have to deduct the remaining book value off the transfer payment, and that you get what's known as the correct book value for the sale, and that money goes into your income, which is part of the revenue, and that's what you're marked against. So let's break it into simple. So the top player, Dylan Moody, I've just signed. I signed him for $870,000 on a 5-year contract. So on the first section, it's going to break it down for me. The annual expense is $174,000 per season, and there's $870,000 left to pay because it's the first season of it. Now, if we move down to a player who's been at the club for longer, so we have Daniel Bentley. You can see originally bought for $50,000. His first contract left was 2.5 years. He's got 2 years left on it. So as you can see, the annual expense is $20,000 per season, and at the moment he's still got $40,000 out of the $50 still left to pay. Now, what happens is when the player gets signed a new contract, all the remaining book value is then the new cost that gets deducted. So in this instance, Daniel Bentley served 2 years, and then he got offered a new contract. His new contract length was for 4 years, and his remaining contract left currently, he's only got 2 years left on that new one. So what happens is that $40,000 carries over as if you've just signed him again, but instead of signing for $50,000, we signed him for $40,000. and it gets divided by that 4. So as you can see, the annual expenses now drop from 20,000 a season to 10,000 a season over the next 4 years. Because he's already done 2 years of it, all that's left of the remaining book value is 20,000. So at the very end, you can see the same thing happens again. So I've put sections here to have for 4 contracts. If for any reason you've got a player you keep at your club for over longer than 4 contracts, what you'll just need to do is basically copy the details to the section below them, and you can fill it. So I'll put Daniel Bentley again, although I've just realised that one's wrong there. Yeah, so you'd put Daniel Bentley again, and then you'd put whatever the new 5th year contract in on there, and you carry it on, and you keep both of them on there until you sell them, and it's just a way of working it out for you. But yeah, so that's what you have to do for every single player in your team. My advice would be, if you're going to do this, use an AI agent. Google's got one, or you can use Copilot, or whichever one you prefer, or you can use a website called Capology. And basically, I'd look up the wages of each player, because the game doesn't do the wages correctly, and this is a better way of doing it. Using the AI agent, you can ask how many contracts they've had, how much did they originally sign for the transfer fee, and if it was undisclosed, it'll give you a roundabout fee. And this is the best way to kind of fill in all these details. If anyone does need help with this, I'm happy to help because I'm pretty good with the finance section side. So if people are struggling with their clubs, if you just hit me up, I can try and help out the best I can to fill these details in for you, or even just give you the advice so you can do it as well. So as you see, I've got all the players currently here, what contracts they had, and it gives me a final book value. So at the moment, after some transfers I've just done as well, we're currently paying 45 million every season, and that's on the remaining book value, or the squad cost for the season. So once it's all done, this will generate onto your seasons page. So you'll recognise this as the previous games. You've got your details to put on your league matches, cup matches. This is important now by putting in like the venue, especially at the very least, because that's going to generate your ticket sales money and how many tickets you've sold. So what I've done, I've just put home there 23 times because that's how many times I'm playing the championship, just to get the ticket money in there for now, so I can kind of work out where I need to be. But you can just fill it in as you go along, or you can just fill it in straight from the start, so you kind of know what's happening. Cup matches, you can just fill in as you go along, and then you've got Continental Cup. So the more matches that you actually play, the more money you're going to get from the ticket sales, which is quite good. At the bottom, there's a final league table, so just so you want to keep track of these details, and also your club achievements there. And then on the right, you've got transfer section. So as you can see here, we've got the transfers that have come in, and on the transfers out of the players that we've sold. Now, this is what we're saying about the sold. So as you can see on the right and the left, you've just got the details to keep track of who you bought and how much they cost. But on the right-hand side, when you sell a player, so let's use Jose Sarr as a good example. Jose Sarr, at the time when I sold him, he only had 1 year left in his contract, so his value was like bottom. I managed to get £1 million for him. But on the squad cost ratio, even though he'd had a couple of contracts and some of the money had been taken off, he still actually owed 1.6 million on the book value. So by selling him for $1 million, I actually get minus 632,000. And what that does, that actually takes it off your revenue. So it was actually a bad thing for me to sell him, really, especially at cost. I probably should have kept him, but I've saved money because he was on such a high wage. It was detriment to my book value, like the finances. And I'll show you. Look, you'll make more sense with the finances when I show you that. But so yeah, so now when you do the transfers out, you put the actual full transfer fee, but you've also got to put the book value. And like I said, it's just the transfer fee minus what the remaining book value is on the right hand side here of the player. Okay, so put your wage in as well, and then when you scroll to the bottom, you've now noticed that it's all been kind of changed here in the finances. It looks a lot, but it's a lot simpler, I promise. It's dead easy for people to use. If you have no interest in this squad cost and you just want to play a normal, the transfers as they come in and out. So you sell a player for 100 million and you want to keep track of 5 players that you sign for 20 million. You can still do that. You just need to use just this section only. Anything that says SCR table and below, you could just completely ignore. You don't bother filling in this squad cost section. You would just use the sheet as normal and it'll generate your funds here for you. So as you can see, in the top left, first thing on the out, you've got what's known as starting budget / owner injection. So if you are using SCR table, I'll explain that shortly. Basically, your starting budget will be, let's say the game tells you you've got 45 million. So you can see your remaining funds will get added on so you know how much you've got to use. The remaining funds is all coming from the incomings and outgoings to work out a total for you. So if that was your starting budget of 45 million, it's going to tell you how much you got to spend. So if you didn't want to do the SCR stuff, you got 148 million to go spend, and that includes wages and transfer fees combined. So that's kind of like your budget. So underneath, you can see it's got actual funds. This is going to work out how the club's money is working. So if you're spending too much, they'll go into the minus, and that'll tell you you've got no budget next season and whatever else. So as you can see, the prize money is quite low in Championship, but the TV money with the parachute payments is quite high. Match tickets, like I says, was worked out based on how many times you've got home in. So the more home games you've got, the more money you're going to get. So cup runs are quite important now. But as a stand, I've just put 23 home time, just so I can work out how much money I've got for now. Merchandising, that's also based on ticket sales, things like that. So it's worked out separately, and it's not included from the home, so you can just do what you need. It will just generate transfers. So that's based on purely the outgoings. So you can see I've sold 104 million from here. Is how much I've generated from selling. So that's just straight there, 104 million transfers, and that gives me a total of all the incomings going in. Now the outgoings, so the transfers, so you can see the same as that, how much I've spent. Players' wages currently. That generates from the squad section, and you need to put in the player's wage. It will then work out a yearly outgoings for you, so you don't have to do it, so you can just leave it there. Staff wages, that was from your staff being filled in. Stadium maintenance, that'll be based on how many, the upgrade section. The bigger your stadium, the more maintenance going to cost. Youth facilities, as I suggested earlier, depending on how many youth players you've got, that will go up. Travel costs, so as the tickets do for the home games, when you put an away match in, so the more away games you play, you have to pay for your travel cost to get your squad to that game. And then you've got other expenditure. So if there's anything that you do on the game and it says it costs money, so let's say when you send a scout out, it'll say that's 90,000 to send them to Scotland. You'll add the money onto there just to keep track of it. And then you'll get a grand total of your ingoings and your outgoings. So you can see here over the course of the season, with all the money going out against the money coming in, is 79 million. Okay, and then underneath, so that basically is getting added onto that 45 million. So if I just delete that. So next we're going to move on to the SCR table. So it looks as if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Leave the squad cost sheet blank. Ignore this bit at the bottom. All you're focusing on is this, which is just looking at your actual club money, and then you can just play the game as normal. If you're interested in the squad cost, underneath this is going to be a table that keeps track of that. So same as the others, basically it's going to fill the details in as you fill these bits in for you. So you can see prize money, TV money, match tickets, merchandise, book value transfer. So this is where it's different from transfer. So where the transfer you've got 104 million, because you're marketing it against the book value, not how much you actually earned, it's actually significantly less. So I've only got 76 million in, even though I actually made 104 in sales. And that gives you a grand total. And then your squad cost. So this is based off your squad cost ratio. So the squad cost for the season total gets generated there for you, 45 million. So I've got to pay that each season, depending on if I keep sign players. So every time you sign a player as well, you've got to add them onto here. Any ones you sell, you remove off to reduce the squad cost, but it keeps track of it for you. player wages, so that's important to also, when you sell a player, what I tend to do is I just cross their name and mark on black, and then as you can see, I just put a little hyphen for their wage. So that way I then keeps track of your wage budget for you. Yep, and then your staff wage on top of that, and it gives you a total of 95. So underneath, this is going to work out for you. Your incomings, which is there, your total, your outgoings, 95, and then it's basically looking against those two, and it's saying, okay, you're spending 95 million of your 146 that's coming out, and the percentage of that you're spending is 65%. So under the rules, which you can see on the right hand side, clubs cannot exceed 85% of their income. So in the Championship, teams can spend 85% of their income. So at the moment, I'm playing 65. I've got wiggle room to spend, and it actually tells me how much I can actually spend, which is 28 million. But as I said, with squad cost, you don't look at the transfer fee. You look at how much it's going to add to your squad cost for the season instead, and that's what's going to give you the how much. So that's basically your budget, but that also includes wages as well. Now, the other ruling based on UEFA's is lower than the 85. So if you're playing in a UEFA competition, which would be Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, they've reduced theirs now, and it was over the past 3 years. It's now reduced to a 70%. So if I was playing as, let's say, Aston Villa, they're in the Premier League, but they're also in the Champions League. So with them, they're spending, let's say if they're spending 81%, in the Premier League, they would be fine, I believe. Actually, let's have a look at the ruling on that. Premier League. Aston Villa. Obviously, once I put my squad cost in, it tell me I'm spending, but yep, so the Premier League's 85 as well, so that's fine. So if he was in the Premier League, I would be earning a lot more money because of ticket price and things. So that's why that's all changed. But the percentage of spending, if I was at 85%, then Premier League would give you points deductions. But because you're 85 and it says 70% of the Champions League would then do things like your squad registration will be reduced. You'd get fined, which then you'd have to add into other expenditure, which then does a detriment to your club's funds. So yeah, you'd have to keep track of your rulings depending on. Look, there's some clubs in Europe don't even do this at all, so in which case you just have to ignore it completely. But it is there for people who are into this SCR and want to actually keep track of it. Other than that, there's no real major changes. You still got your squad list section where you can fill in the information. I've now changed some of the columns to say release clause, buyback, and sell on, so you can keep track of that stuff. So you can see here Tommy Doyle, who will sign for Man City. The buyback price was 15 million, and they had a 50% profit sell-on clause as well. So when you do come to sell that player, you'll have to deduct all this stuff off if it's a sell-on clause, as add it to your transfer fee before you can do the book value as well. Other than that, everything else is the same as it is, and yeah, so you then just do your transfers. When you start a new season, it looks like you click on the season 2 page where you have your starting budget / owner injection. You can copy the remaining funds from this season to the next one. So let's say I finish up the season, I've got all my money, and I go, right, that's how much I've got left, the 139 million. Season 2, I would then put it into this box, the 139 million from season 1, and that would give me my new figure of money to work with. So this is like your actual money, and this is for your SCR stuff. So it's nice and separated. But yeah, as a whole, it works and everything. I'm happy to help out once again if anyone's any finance issues. Just give me a shout. But that is the sheet as a whole. The one last thing I would say as a warning, look, says some clubs have been moved because of it was originally setting up for FC27. Obviously, because of the kind of trailers showing that they've kind of done this themselves already, I probably won't be doing a sheet for that, or if I do, it's going to be a very minimal one just for things like SCR stuff, because that won't be in the game. But yeah, thank you for watching, and also, being interested in the sheet. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.